Hi, I'm the Buildmonger and welcome to Waystone Season 3. This has been a long time coming and personally I am super excited to get into it. So we have decided...
Wait, hold up. That was me? I sucked at recording videos. Seriously. When was this? Wait, was this July? Alright, come on, guys. So, I have recently gotten a larger following from Vintage Beef's server, and I figured to myself, I need to revamp the way my Waystone content is displayed to people because, well, to put it bluntly, my old videos sucked. So, this is what I have done. I have decided to essentially do a recap of the first 15 episodes of Waystone. Even if some of them were fairly decent, it is still something to start with. And 15 is a good round number to do this on. So yeah, this is gonna be fun. So I had decided to start with an introductory episode 0, and the only reason I really did this was because I was going to Universal Studios on the day that our Waystone content was supposed to go out. And I still hadn't made really any progress whatsoever on a video. So episode 0 it was. The episode 0 was the worst video I've ever put out, I'd say. But it introduced the server, the custom advancements that no longer exist on the server because they were glitchy and caused crashes, and my plans for the communal jungle spawn and a Japanese base that I was going to build. And build a Japanese base I did. It is still one of the most prized builds I've done so far, but the layout of the houses has not really changed since episode 1, where I built my first Japanese house. Very basic design. It had spruce for the floor, which later got changed to oak, as well as some cyan concrete powder, snow, oak logs, and an acacia wood roof.
Because like the Japanese people, they typically slept on mats on the floor. And I thought that could be super cool to make. Only problem is I have to have this block solid right here or else the bed won't find anywhere to spawn you on.
After this, I decided to leave the comfort of my own Japanese home and build myself a lovely little build shop so I could explore everyone else's bases on the server and leave my mark. This worked to an extent, with a few people ordering builds that we will get to later, and I think it turned out pretty nice. It's a very basic design, made mostly using brick, which at the time was my favorite block, but I think it worked. Of course, we couldn't be ignoring that other people were doing their own little bases, and one of them happened to be named Waffle Stick, the server owner, no less. So, I decided to get my prank on in the second episode, which has sort of become an unofficial tradition for me, and essentially cover his house in waffle syrup. It turned out nice, but some other pranks I have built really have eclipsed that in the future. I would have done more pranking this season if it wasn't for the fact that building in other people's bases had become somewhat of a job for me with the new proud ownership I had over a build shop. Mrouse, one of the members of the server, came to me and asked me if I wanted to build a windmill in his base, and I obliged. It was a giant build. It took me forever, but it turned out quite well in the end. This was also the first time I had ever used the replay mod, and that also worked out if you can look at my other videos and see that I have been using a replay mod non-stop.
I decided to go for something different, base this whole thing on kind of a Dutch windmill with like wooden blades. That's the word I'm looking for.
Once building giant windmills was not a responsibility of mine anymore, I returned to my Japanese base to landscape it. and the plan I had was quite magnificent. I was to build maple trees. How do you do that in Minecraft, you ask? You use red terracotta. That's right. It was an interesting endeavor. Wasn't entirely sure it would work, but it turned out pretty neat looking, if I do say so myself. Also in episode 4, I introduced a new clip show editing style. One that would last me up until now, honestly, in different forms and qualities. This also meant I didn't have to do as much in episodes, and the following 2 episodes really showed that behavior in a way I quite regret. In episode 5, I simply built a minecart with chest storage system that basically created an automatic way to sort things without having to do any redstone. Neat, but not the topic for one episode. Episode 6, while a little more eventful, wasn't really that much. In that episode, I created a manual netherwart farm, and through that netherwart farm, I created a small shop for netherwart. That shop essentially being a stall in a quote-unquote food court someone had created on the server. And while I did a little bit of stuff there, the builds that I made during that episode were not all that remarkable. I also had 2.5 episodes where I pranked people. The first one being episode 6.5, and episode 6.5 I pranked Rabbit Roars, who had a really amazing geode base and made signs as if it were in a museum. I also did a little bit more in the museum area, such as adding a dinosaur fossil and an art gallery.
So here we have the Buildmonger Natural History Museum art gallery. We have Pinocchio, we have an odd person that is presumably Frimp, we have modern art.
But at the end of the day, or rather in episode 7, I always return to my Japanese base. This time, we needed an auto smelter, so I built a kiln around it. And what it turned out to be was a very defining build of the area, which I think turned out really decently. In episode 7, I planted a bunch of trees as well, and word got out I was making these trees. Keynes, who was building an all-pink village, wanted some all-pink trees to go with it, and I was the right man for a job, having a build shop and some nice trees at my base, so I indulged him. I also created him some palm trees, beach umbrellas, and carpets. The latter 2 features he did not really like. After an arduous battle with a bunch of other members of the server for who got to do the Nether Hub, I started on my own version of the Nether Hub and never finished it. I actually had Waffle finish it for me in the end, but what I did do with it was fairly decent, and it taught me that I am not very good with big projects. So, hooray for that, I guess. Yeah, I should not have taken this project up. And we returned to our Japanese base shortly thereafter, building a tea house with a little river that connected through and a bridge that went over it. And overall, it really added atmosphere to the base in a way that I desperately needed. In episode 11, I decided to do a community build for once, because the only one I had done is my build shop, and that's really just capitalism. So, guess what I decided to do? A gas station, because that's totally not capitalism. Anyway, I built it right next to a beautiful modern building known as the ME Tower that is rested on a far edge of spawn, and I used purple, because I thought that looked good for gas stations, as they were both equally ugly. After that, I took a long break to focus on modded in a way that I honestly shouldn't have, starting several modded series that never got past 2 or 3 episodes. Now, This turned out to be a boon because it allowed me to think about my Waystone content and create better content using a better editing platform. And the first thing I decided to do was use another awfully ugly block. First purpose, now we use birch logs to represent animal hide in a teepee. And I actually think it turned out well. This teepee was for a horse race that I was building out on our minigames area, the Waystone. Purple, birch, diorite, will the madness ever end? So I decided to do a build using polished diorite in the same area as the build we used the birch in. That build was a little farm. We had an American frontier theme going for the horse race, and it turned out really well. Build shop duty called again, in a way that I haven't finished yet. So, Rouse, again, decided to allow us to customize his pathway just a little bit, and we added several interesting bits such as lily pad bridge, a rope bridge, a graveyard and crypt, and a little marketplace. But again, it's still all work in progress. The same episode I started using Jappa's new textures was also a Christmas episode, and the last episode I have done of Waystone thus far. And in this Christmas episode, I built a lovely little Victorian bakery in a Christmas builds area. Then we did a Secret Santa build swap where I made a chimney delivery company for Waffle's chimneyless modern house. And that brings us to now. So, ready to watch some Waystone? Well, I hope you are, because episode 16 is coming out shortly, and it's going to be great. So, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I shall see you later. Peace.